അവിടുന്ന് മണ്ണിറങ്ങണമെങ്കിൽ എന്നോട് മാനസികമായിട്ടുള്ള
Hey everyone, it's Sam, and welcome back to the 911 Nonsense podcast. To stay in the loop, learn about upcoming guests, and join in the conversations with the Noon community, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And hey, if you like what you hear in this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world to us. Michelle, a trauma nurse with an unwavering passion for patient care, shares her journey from pharmacy tech to the front lines of emergency medicine. She opens up about the emotional challenges of trauma nursing, the importance of empathy, and her advocacy for healthcare reform, fair compensation, and mental health awareness. From CPR on a young gunshot victim to dreams of mobile clinics for the underserved, Michelle brings compassion, strength, and honesty to every shift and this powerful conversation. Let's get started. All right, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us on the Noon podcast. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful, Sammy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about it today.
I'm excited to have you here. We've known each other. We were just talking about it for probably about 14, 15 years now. We both started kind of in the same area around the same time. And it's been really cool getting to watch you kind of grow from where you started to where you are now. So let's talk a little bit about it. Where did you start? Where are you now? Who are you? And what do you do, my friend?
The existential question. Um, so my name is Michelle Pantoja. I am a registered nurse currently at an emergency room here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Born and raised, moved a couple times when we were little, but back since I've been in kindergarten. So this is home for my whole life. Um, as you said, we've known each other for quite a long time. We've seen each other grow and been in the depths of it. Back when we met in 2011, I was a registrar or a clerk in an emergency room at a different hospital here in the city. I was already in my mid 20s. I already had a bachelor's, and it was in education, and I did that for under 30 seconds. It just didn't work out. And so I was kind of yearning to see where I fit, what 26-year-old isn't like, oh gosh, this is the one I thought it was. What am I gonna do? The reality of it is I always wanted to be somehow in the medical sphere. I didn't know what that would look like. I honestly didn't think I was intelligent enough to step into that arena. When I was younger, my dad had us all three of us, my two brothers and myself. We all had to have a job at Walgreens. So I was actually a pharmacy tech all through college and graduated. And I knew pharmacy wasn't for me, so went into education and did teaching for. I mean, we're talking under a year or less. It was a very short turnaround for a bevy of reasons. And so once I got out, I got just a regular job at that hospital, and I was a clerk, and I moved down quickly from outpatient services to the emergency room. And it was love at first sight. It was an instant, it was almost kismet. It wasn't like an addiction. It was just like, people on your podcast have said this before, like, oh, it was like, these are my people. And it instantly is. It's like, oh, this is home. Like somehow or another, I need to figure out how I get here. So I was working down there. I've had a very difficult road getting here. I did my prereqs. There was a couple local colleges here. And at that time, it was just an open lottery. And so your number was either called or it wasn't. And if I were that lucky, I'd already be a millionaire. And I wasn't.
Yeah.
So, so I kept trying to take classes. I have a real hard time academically. I can say I feel like I am a very intelligent person, but I can also acknowledge that it takes me a while to get there. For some reason, my brain just takes a little bit longer to kind of understand what it is. Once I understand it, I'm solid. It's locked in. I'm good. I could teach it. I could do it blindfolded. But sometimes it just takes me a longer time to get there. A little bit of dyslexia doesn't help. And so go figure, I'm in the medical field where I can't spell or read, or, that's usually how it works. So if anyone ever audits my notes, it's going to be a little scary. um, but kept trying to get in. Long story long, I couldn't get into nursing school. I didn't want to do a for-profit school just because of all of the all of the stigma, right? You're like, "Yeah, it's not the same, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever the price tag is." Well, after 3 years, I got tired of not getting in. So I said, okay, I did my research. I enrolled in a program. I was almost to the end of a program. I had 9 months left to graduate with my RN. Uh, I didn't quite listen to my parents when they told me I needed to pull back a little bit on work. I was still working full time as a at that time I had left that emergency room because they weren't working with school. I was burning both ends of the candle, and I failed my pharmacology final by one question.
Ugh.
And so I was going to be held back to that next semester. Well, little did I know, this particular college was defrauding students in government loans. Uh, yeah, so if you signed for a $5,000 loan, somehow they were blowing that up to they were taking out $25,000 in your name, and students didn't know. And in addition to that, they were refusing to comply with new accreditation standards. So I had failed the class. I'd gotten to the next semester, passed the class. That was a Friday evening right before Labor Day. We had Labor Day on Monday. Tuesday, we had a mass email that said, "Thank you for choosing this program. We are no longer open. You cannot receive any records from us at this time."
Oh my
And
God.
my entire world, 9 months left to graduate, my entire world just crumbled on my head. I didn't know what to do. So here comes that hesitation with the for profit school. Nothing transfers. None of those credits can go to a traditional college. So I was back at square one. And at this time, I was at a point in my 30s where now they were kind of doing the 10-year caps on sciences and maths and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So if it had been so long, like you had to take it over no matter what your grade was. So I spent another 3 years retaking courses and crying all day, all night, trying to figure out, is this, do I really want this bad? Is this like, I'm sure you could fall in love with something else. Maybe just let it go, girl. Like, it's fine. It's not for you. And I've never been so sure about something in my life. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know what it was because again, I had never been a nurse yet. We hadn't really had any real clinicals at that college, and so I just kept at it. And 3 years later, I applied to 5 different schools. I got into all 5 schools. I chose the school closest to myself, and I really ran with it. At this point, I'm in my mid 30s. I was Student Nurse Association president. I was class rep. I was the kind of big sister of the cohort because now I'm going to school with a bunch of 21-year-olds,
Hmm.
20-year-olds, and I'm in my mid 30s. And I'm like, oh, we had very different paths to get here. A lot of these, bless them. I couldn't have done this at 22. I know, I really believe that life turns out kind of as it should. Few bumps on the way, but I couldn't have done this at that time. So I'm doing great. 6 weeks into school, COVID hit and the entire school shut down. So I'm kind of a little bit of deja vu, and I'm like, oh God darn it, not again. Like, what, what do we do? Got through school. Like I said, I was the rep, I was the president. I threw myself into everything that I could. We weren't allowed on campus at all. We had very minimal clinicals. The world was on fire and nobody knew what was going on or how dangerous it was or how safe it was or what to do really. And so I was a product of COVID, and I graduated. I had a 1 year internship at one of the ICUs, a neuro ICU, and I was very grateful for that opportunity because in the height of COVID, I was still able to go once or twice a week as a paid intern to work on my clinical skills. It was very short staffing, so luckily I was prepared enough because I actually had a lot of freedom to kind of care for the patients on my own, and these were sick, intubated, neurocritical patients. But I had already signed a contract for the ED residency. I knew where I was going to go. I was going to go home. And if I was going to do it anywhere in New Mexico, it was going to be I was going to try my damnedest to make it at the trauma center. So I finished my internship. I graduated. I did extremely well. And my first assignment, my residency was on a unit that was fitted for cystic fibrosis. And so that's how we became the defunct COVID unit. We had respiratory COVID patients as far as the eye could see. It was full PPE. Uh, it was a rough time. And then I did my 10, 11 month tour, and then I came down to the emergency room, and I've been there for 3 years now. I've been a full-time trauma nurse for almost 3 years. As soon as I got off orientation, by the grace of somebody, I'm okay, and I do okay at the job. I'm questionable about a lot of things in my life. I struggle to be like, oh yeah, I'm this or I'm that or whatever, but I'm a damn good nurse, and I will stand by that. And this is where I'm supposed to be.
That's crazy how many hurdles you had to jump to be where you are now, right? Because a lot of people would have just stopped after that first time. Getting canceled, that's nuts, dude. And have you gotten anything back from that program? Or was that's it?
It was a that's it. I can still get my transcripts online now, that don't transfer to anywhere but are still required anytime I do anything. And I received a check for, I think, like $6.13, something like that. They it was a
What?
it was a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit that the government brought on behalf of the government and on behalf of the students. But something crazy, like they were doing offshore accounts and God knows where, and so all the money's gone. It's nowhere to be
Jesus.
found. So that was my parting gift. So I have received nada from them.
I would have framed that check, I think.
I honestly should have. I honestly should have. I'm sure I have the pay stub somewhere. And in my petty mind, I was like, well, I'm going to take that $6 and I'm going to spend it. I'm going to spend every single penny.
Are, are there any warnings that you would give to people who are looking to get into nursing school?
I would definitely say do your research in a couple of different ways. Number one, and like I said, I did try to do the best I could, but try to make sure that you're up to date with the accreditation of each school that you're applying to, and what those accreditation standards are and how they compare to other accreditation standards. And then my other big recommendation, and I mean, it's different. They didn't have this when you and I were kids, but now they have a really great program. And I don't know if it's the state or the government, to be honest. Um, but kids in high school now can start to shadow different professions. And I think that's so amazing. And I would say the same, even if you're not in high school, if you're a fully actualized adult and you're like, you know what, this kind of piques my interest and I'm not sure, but I don't really know what I'm getting into. Call that employer, whatever it is. It could be Target, for whoever it is, and say, I'm kind of interested in, is there any way I could shadow an employee for a couple hours just to see if maybe this is what I think it is and something that I want to be a part of. Worst they can say is no, for whatever reason. But I would say to do your best to really know what you're getting into before you decide to dedicate yourself to something, because there's a very good chance that if you're just going off of hearsay or what you've seen in the movies or what you think you know about something, you may do all of this academic work if that's what's required, and then step into a position that's not it's not good for you, and that's okay. I want people to know, like, you've heard all the knocks, and I started with a different career, different degree. I have several degrees because when you go to college for that long, they just start throwing them at you. So it's really just, I think you need to know yourself. I think you need to know what you're getting into. Proceed with caution, but also, if you do go through all that and you end up somewhere and it's not for you, it is okay to recalculate and try for something else. It is never too late to be stuck anywhere. It may be difficult, it may be a very different path than you saw for yourself, but it is always, until the day you die, okay to change and adapt and adjust where you are.
And that goes for anybody, like you said, at any age. I think that's a huge thing, right? Because especially nurses or EMS providers, we get kind of sucked into this little hole of, well, we
Mm-hmm.
make money here and we know what we're doing here, right? We're afraid of what we don't know. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean it doesn't matter if you're afraid or not. If this is killing you, literally, if
Hmm.
this is killing you, you need to be able to step away, and then you need to know that it's okay to step away. There's no shame in that. We're seeing now that the nurses that are coming out, the paramedics that are coming out, are having lives in these careers for about 5 years before they're out of these careers,
If that.
which is mind blowing. Yeah, that's insane. That is absolutely insane.
And I mean, what do you attribute that to? Because I kind of go back and forth between it's so rough, and we don't, you and I have had conversations about the lack of support systemically and the systemic issues that are happening, not just here. We are in a poor state with low resources, but across the country, this is kind of a theme. And but also I also wonder the younger generations, I will give it to them that I do feel like coming in to a younger age, they are a little bit more self-aware and do kind of set stronger boundaries more early on. Where I feel like the older generations, like ourselves and even older than us, we were kind of taught to just like grin and bear it. Like, well, it doesn't matter if you don't like it. This is where you're at, and you're going to stick with it. And I think that's just nothing but detrimental.
Right. So you and I talked a little bit about this also. Like the companies are basing their needs and our staffing based on our altruism, right? Like
Hmm.
they're hoping that we're going to want to go in because we want to help people and not just that doesn't include or that doesn't say specifically just patients. That's also for our fellow nurses, our fellow techs, right? Because if we call in for that day, if we're legitimately sick and we call in, they're going to tell us, well, you're really like letting down your whole crew here.
Yeah.
They're basing it all off of our altruism of being better and hoping to help more people. And like you said, the younger generation coming in is like, no,
No,
that doesn't
absolutely
matter.
not.
Yeah, no, you're gonna pay me better, and here's what my stipulations are, right? So,
Exactly. And I think that's where it's interesting that you brought that up, that they play on our feelings about it, because I think anybody in the medical community, no matter what your role is, I think we show up for two groups. We show up for each other, and then we show up for our patients. And it is a very tight-knit community. And so it's funny because it may seem like something little, like, oh, well, you're going to let your crewmates down. But for us, this is a family. This is it. We have been through the ugly, through the funny, through the really the times that you can't even process. And so to for us to feel like we're letting that group down, it does chip away at us. It does really hurt our heart, and we will show up instead being sick, being tired, knowing that we need a mental break because we're so afraid to let those people down. And on the flip side, those people know exactly, like, if you need it off, take it off, like, we'll be okay. And if it burns down, it burns down, but there's only one you. We can't replace you.
yes, that's accurate. And do you feel safe in the environment that you work in today?
I feel like the environment that I'm in, and you're familiar with the hospital that I'm at, is it's gone through a lot of changes. I've been at the hospital now between my internship and now for 5 years. I've been in the emergency department for 3 years. We've gone through a lot of changes, a couple of directors, a lot of management changes, charge changes, staff changes. We have a very low percentage of core nurses, core staff in general, but we have a very large population of travel nurses. And so that makes it difficult to kind of create that community. I will say under the current leadership, this is the most hopeful that I've been. The team that we have, the managers, the directors, the charge nurses, and the few core that we have left, I do feel like this is a safe place. I feel like they are, unfortunately, despite their best efforts, they're still kind of being crushed from the hospital-wide initiatives or directives or wishes. So even though they're trying their best, I think they're still facing some systemic issues that they may or may not get around. But I think they're fighting their damnedest to protect us. Little things like I said, when I say we have little core staff, I think it takes about 135 nurses, bare bones, to staff our emergency room between days and nights combined. We have, I think, 17 or less core nurses of those 135. So things like getting vacations approved Our new management, I have not had any. They know how important those little wins are, and so I think they're doing anything and everything they can to give us our little wins, and I think that's making a world of difference, and I think that's pouring just a little bit more in our cup to help us keep fighting.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I think I have seen that change, so I'd agree where they put a lot of emphasis on if your core staff you get the days that you request
Mhm.
versus just throwing you wherever they feel like throwing you. I
Yeah.
have seen that. How do you feel about travel nurses being in the trauma room?
It's a double-edged sword, to be honest. I mean, I was raised by travel nurses from NSI internship all the way down, from being on the COVID, for being an intern, being a COVID nurse, and then coming down to the emergency room. All three of those units, I was raised by travel nurses because there was still in all of those units, not as bad as the emergency room, but there were no core nurses. I think that is a very large group of travel nurses that are extremely capable, that are very hardworking, that are as dedicated to the job as we are. Um, I have very good friendships and relationships with a lot of travel nurses, current and that have moved on. I do think that they have it right in a sense to where, this kind of mass exodus started happening around COVID and after COVID, um, where a lot of nurses were realizing, whether they were fresh off the bat or were seasoned nurses, kind of that they were going to set those boundaries. Well, if I'm gonna stay in this, I'm at least going to get paid what at least something close to what I deserve. So I do think in that sense they've got it right. They're demanding a higher paycheck for the work that they're doing. I think that trauma is a very sticky. The trauma bay in this hospital doesn't run like many other facilities, and this is the only trauma bay I've worked in. But again, having so many travel nurses around me, I've been pretty educated as to what the rest of the country looks like. We are a very different environment, and it's chaotic, and our resources, you know, are none. And our population is increasingly sick, and our census doesn't quit. This is a room that was initially built in theory to hold 6 patients. In the last 3 years, we've averaged between 6 and 22 patients in that room on a shift, on a single shift. I have been there when we have simultaneously coded 4 patients at a time within a 5 minute period. Um, so I think there are capable people that can do it. The sticky part is, because they have such a short orientation, is being able to assess who truly has the desire to do it. A lot of people won't touch that room with a 10-foot pole. They want nothing to do with it. They say, put me here, put me there. I don't want anything to do with that room. But also, it's always a difficult thing to really assess a nurse's ability to judge acuity and to also act on it. There's that clinical knowledge, but then also the ability to put it into action. In that room specifically, nurses, and this is one of the things I love about it, we have an awful lot of autonomy.
Hmm.
We are there, we make decisions. Um, Sometimes without providers because they're being called left, right, or whatever, but we have to act. And these are very critical situations most of the time. So I think there are many people who can do it. I think finding people who will stay in that role is the hard part. And I think that's why even travelers who have stayed with us for 2 or 3 years just recently have told me, like, this is my last go. Like, I cannot do it anymore because it is that physically, emotionally taxing.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about how emotional that can be. What's been one of your most impactful moments while you've been in trauma?
In trauma, there's one that lives with me honestly every day. Uh, and it was pretty early on in my career. I was off orientation. I was good to go. I was already trying to find my footing as trying to be a trusted party in the department, because trust is everything
Hmm.
down there. And we got a call. Uh, our department, we have a peds is separate. I know a lot of emergency rooms combine them. Ours is separate. And so we got a call for what we thought was a 15-year-old child, just found on the side of the road with a gunshot to the head. That was all the information that we had. They were being flown in. So we're preparing the trauma bay, trying to get everything ready. Trauma team's there, ED team's there. I was going to be the primary nurse. Flight takes a little, when they land on the helipad, it takes a little bit longer, so we're just kind of gathered a little bit, talking about our plan. And I get a call from my charge nurse on my bus there, and she said, "You need to meet me at the elevator. We need to go to the helipad now." And my stomach just kind of fell into my butthole. I was terrified. I was quite literally shaking in my boots. You want to be that person, but it's terrifying. And so I ran to the elevator. We went up to the helipad, and she had just gotten a call that this patient started to code en route. Um, and so I met them on the helipad, and we ran up to the helicopter, and the rotors are still running, and we're trying to pull this patient out as the people in the helicopter are, manual. They didn't have a Lucas, so they're manually doing compressions, and we're pulling up the stretcher as close as we can. And I, like the little raccoon that I am, it's kind of, people make fun of me for how quickly I can climb onto stretchers. I'm a little bit chubby, but I get up there real fast and real good. So I climbed onto the stretcher, and this person looked like the body of a child. They're thin, they're little. So that was very jarring for me initially, but you just, thank God, my instinct just kind of like, you have a job to do, like focus. So I jumped on her chest, and I was straddling her, and I rode the stretcher, and I coded her all the way down from the helipad into the trauma room. What was most difficult for me is that, there's different positions in which you code a patient, from the side, from front. If you're on a stretcher, you kind of have to straddle them, and you're face to face with them. And I've been face to face with a lot of patients when I'm coding them, but this one had her brains blown out. And so I'm staring into this person's face, and I'm just locked in, and I'm just taking in every detail of her face. And it's killing me to, like, for me to breathe at the same time, and just to know that I have a job. And I didn't know what was next, but I knew that all I could do is just keeping count, and just pushing and pushing, and just like, but just locked into her eyes. And every time I move, you just see her head jiggle, and just like more matter coming out of other places. Um, and so we finally get to the trauma bay, and this feels like a lifetime. This was maybe 4 minutes, elevator ride and all the things. And I'm gassed. Doing compressions is difficult. It'll
Mm-hmm.
gas you. So physically you're tired, and mentally I'm just like, it's almost like an out of body experience when you connect that closely with the patient in that type of traumatic situation. We get her, I jump off the stretcher. We do the things. Everybody jumps in. They know their role. We're trying to get her on the monitor. We're trying to do the things. Um, we work her and work her and work her. We can't get her back. So we call it. And then family had arrived right as we're calling it. It turns out that she was a little bit older. She was about 19. So in my eyes, where I was sitting, still a child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she had killed herself. It was an intentional. She wanted to die. So that always hurts my heart whenever someone mentally. Sorry, I'm
It's
known for
okay.
being a crier. So, um, whenever anyone is mentally so far gone that they feel like nothing could be better than being here, that always breaks my heart. Um, and so for whatever she was dealing with, she was done. Like, that was her way out. Family got there, and so I went with the doctor to tell them what we found, that we weren't able to save her. I walked back with them to the trauma bay where they said goodbye to her. Um, and the second they left, I just lost it. And this was the first time that I can remember. I cry, like I said, I cry a lot. I am one who gets emotionally attached. I am one who, and I'm not afraid to show it. I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. I don't care if oh, we don't cry in trauma. Well, I do.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm upset right now. So I'm good. This was a person. This was a child, and had so much life that could have changed, circumstances that could have maybe had her feel different. But I crumbled, like literally, I kind of slid down the wall and just started bawling my eyes out. And I walked out with one of the residents, and he gave me a hug and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. Like, I'm not okay." And this was the first time that I could not pull it together. I had cried before, I had cried many times since. This is one of the few times that I could not get my shit together and move on to the next. Like there was just too big of a hurdle and a roadblock and too many feelings and emotions, and just like all I could see was her face. No matter where I looked in that room, I was just staring at her face. And the interesting thing to that is, like I said, there's this kind of stigma that people in EMS in general, but especially the trauma bay, like, oh, you're tough and you don't cry and you don't get attached and you don't, which I think is bullshit, frankly. Because these are people, and frankly, we're people. Like, this is not normal to see this once or twice in life, let alone to show up to work and expect it every single day of your life. But my team really rallied around me. They let me cry. They didn't let me take another patient. They gave me everything I needed and were truly concerned about how I was, because they cared that much about me being okay. So much so that, like, and it's funny because she still comes with us today. I used to have a little foot badge uh for a badge rail, and two of the girls went to the gift shop and they couldn't, two of the clerks, and they couldn't find a little foot, but they found this little triceratops, and they gave it to me, and they're like, "We don't, like, we're sorry, basically, like, we don't know what to do, we're sorry, like, we love you, here's a dinosaur." And so Sarah's kind of become the Sarah Triceratops. She comes with me every single shift, and she sits on my desk, and she sits right next to my chief officer of morale sign, and she has a little harness that says, therapy dog, do not pet, or what, whatever it is. And she had, for almost 3 years now, has come with me to every single shift. And it's a constant reminder that I'm not alone. And it's funny because people will pick her up and take her and pet her. Some people will hide her, and then it sends me on a frenzy. It's, where is Sarah? And it's silly. It's very silly. But that team has 100% had my back. And it's a constant reminder that when I'm not okay, they have my back. But when I am okay, it is my responsibility to make sure I have theirs. And so that's what kind of sticks with me and motivates me. And so that's why I work so hard to advocate for all of us. It gets me in trouble from time to time. I'm okay with that. What's wrong is wrong, and I'm going to speak up. And I mean everybody from housekeepers to interpreters to medics to doctors, residents, attendings, whoever it is, we are truly all in this together. And I believe that. And we are not any good if any one part of us is not okay. And so I try really hard to work on team morale, from having a stupid bag of candy with me every shift so that someone can, like, hey, I can't fix the systemic failure, but have a Snickers, whatever it is, you know? And so that's kind of where I find my passion. I really sending out birthday emails, which I've been a little lax on the last couple of months, but like finding little ways to really recognize the team and just make sure that they know that they're appreciated and they're wanted.
I worked for the ER for a few years ago, and I left, and then I came back PRN, and I've noticed a huge culture shift, like a huge culture shift, where it used to be like, hey, we're all in this together, we're a team, we're gonna get through tonight, like it's gonna suck, but we're gonna do it, we're gonna get through it,
Sure.
to everybody's here, it's a job, let's do
Mm-hmm.
this, it's another night. You know what I mean? And it's a little disheartening.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
been a bit disheartening coming back.
It's very defeating.
Yeah.
Every time you step on that floor, you can already almost feel. And I think that's really hard because I think we're finally seeing the consequences of what's been going on for years.
Hmm.
I think that we talk about burnout often, um, but I think we're seeing it in real time. I think people are at the end of their frazzled ropes. And I think a majority of people, no matter how good their coping skills are or how well they've dealt with their mental health, I think everyone is trying so hard to just survive the shift. Not the year, not the week. I need to get through this shift. And unfortunately, it does kind of seep into the fabric of how the whole team runs.
How can we make this better, do you think? Like, what can we do to shift this back to where it was?
It's a question I ask myself frequently, um, because I do care so deeply about the people that I work next to. And like I said, some of the relationships that I've built with these people are I rely on them heavy and they rely on me. Unfortunately, I do feel like as much as some of us on the groundwork try very hard to shift it, to do what we can to shift it, we'll try and welcome in the new person as best we can. We'll try to make the environment as best we can. I think there's so much out of our control. I think until hospital administration here and countrywide start to acknowledge where we're at and start to make changes accordingly, unfortunately, I feel like it's all going to fall on top of its head. I think we're on a little bit of a sinking ship. We none of us get paid even remotely close what we should for the level of responsibility that we have. None of us at this particular hospital receive hazard pay. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've filled out an assault report because I've forget the verbal assaults, but that I've physically had hands put on me and it either goes nowhere or charges are pleaded down for a bigger fish. Um, I think that staffing is a huge issue. We are working bare bones every single shift and they keep skimming off the bottom, but we keep the ship afloat because we're desperate to not let each other and our patients down. I think until something catastrophic happens, and I couldn't tell you exactly what that looks like, unfortunately, I feel like in this country, we're in a system where we value profit over people. Everything from the drug prices to
Mhm.
access to insurance to access to primary health care. We have a very large homeless population, little things like homeless population, addiction population, all those kind of things that we have enough money in this country to take care of people. We just choose not to. And so I think unfortunately until some way, shape, or form that hurts the pocketbooks, I've racked my brain and I don't have an answer to that. And so that's why I just try as hard as I can to do what I can. And I'm not great. Some days I don't have it in me and I'm very quiet and you know me, I'm loud, I'm laughing. If it's a fun time and we don't have anything serious going on, you can hear me laughing down the hall. But when it's go time, like buckle up and shut up and get to it. So I don't know what the answer is. And I really wish I did because that really hurts my heart the most because we're burning out people and these are people that I care about. And yes, we're harming patients and I care about that too. But from a personal standpoint, the people that I care about are affected by this. And then in turn, the further ripples into the community, into our patients. It's doing nothing but damaging and creating a mountain of devastation that I don't know how we're supposed to climb.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So if you won the lottery today, what would you do?
Oh, I have plans. I already have. It's funny you say that because I don't know if you know this, but I have a weekly lottery pool. Uh,
I did
because
not know that.
I'm so determined. It's only once a week. It's not a big deal. It's the price of a coffee, just whatever. But I'm so invested in believing in the impossible. It's not probable, but it's possible, damn it. And somebody has to win. So maybe it's me. I have a million ideas from how how I feel about my animals. I would have an animal sanctuary, but I would really pour into, I mean, if we're talking Oprah money, oh God, the things I would do, the plans I have, I would little things like like I said, we have a very large homeless population and we're a very poor state to begin with. Things like having mobile shower buses for homeless people. It's hard enough being on the street. And whatever the reason is that they're on their street, that's none of my business. But they still deserve to feel like a human being. Things like having low or no cost clinics and staffing those, but paying people to want to stay there and want, I think a lot of people genuinely want to care for the community. That's again, that's why we get into it. But the reality is, when you go into a bachelor or a master's or a doctorate program, that costs money.
It costs
And
a
so
lot
the
of money.
reality is, exactly, the reality is that you have to have a backup plan on how to pay that off. And so I think if people had the option and either didn't have those loans looming over them or had a job in which they could do what they love but still get paid appropriately to take care of the responsibilities they have as a person, I would fund something like that. I would really, really push education from a generalized education point, from my very brief time in the education system, library books, supplies, snacks, whatever it is, but also at free education to the public. I think a big problem is, which is kind of an oxymoron given the age we're in and everything's available at the tip of a phone or an iPad or a laptop. I still think we're very undereducated, the general public. And so even things like having clinics on how to cook good homemade meals, but on this little budget, whatever it is, so people can still learn what nutrients they're supposed to get, but also fit it into, because unfortunately a lot of people, again, not just here in the country, they're choosing between, do I pay my rent or do I buy more nutritious food, right? Like that's literally
Yeah.
the choice they're making. And that should never have to be a choice for any one person. So oh, I'm just waiting for that ticket. I have so many plans and I would take over the world. And eventually, when I'm in public office of some sort, I will change things. But currently for where I'm at, I'm a little peon in the pod. So,
Would you still work?
oh, absolutely. I love my job. Now, would I work full time? Don't get me wrong. I would go PRN. I would pick up as I please. This would not, this would, I love to travel. There's so much beauty to see in this world and so many cultures and so many people. If I had that option, oh, I would be gone for 3 weeks and then maybe work for one and then gone for another three, doing whatever it is I wanted to do. But I love what I do. For better or worse, and let me tell you, it's usually worse. I love this job. And like I said, this of all the things, I know I'm good here. I know I'm good. And so it's a passion that I don't think I'd give up. But again, I maybe not full time
Oh, I honestly, if I won, I wouldn't work anymore.
at all.
Not at all. Nope. And people are like, "Oh, but you get so bored." Fuck no. If I had enough
Oh yeah,
money,
no.
I could entertain myself just fine.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't
And
need
don't
it.
get me wrong, that ticket comes in tomorrow. I may very quickly change my mind. You know what? I did my time.
Yep.
Actually, I'm good. Like, call me if you need some funding kind of thing.
Yes.
So we're always going to leave that open to that possibility.
That's awesome. Well, Michelle, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about anything that you feel that we didn't talk about, or if you'd like to shout out any companies or recognize anybody.
I think in general, the people who listen to your podcast, you've got a lot of guests that you've had that are doing really great things. I think that's something that I haven't figured out myself yet, as far as starting some sort of organization. So there's nothing that I have personally to offer, but I think things like, Rob's Skulls for Hope, the lady that you had that has the ranch, that people can go to. I think I think all of them are important, and I think that it doesn't. My only, I guess, addition would be just to you can do something as a person. So whether that's just being nice, whether that's being kind to a patient, or kind of whatever it is to your coworker, I think everybody contributes something. positive or negative. And so I think that's when it's just really important to kind of hone in and decide. And again, nobody's perfect. I've had my days where I'm muddying the waters and it's not positive. But do you go with the best of intentions to more often than not be be just a little speckle of hope, a little bit of glitter on that shit pile. You know, maybe
That
maybe
shit.
just kind of do what you can. And I think that's where kind of a lot of people are, just in general. I think people get overwhelmed. I know I sure as hell do, about, God, how do I fix all the problems? How do I, like, there's so many. Where do I even start? What do I start with? I think if you're making sure that you're taking care of yourself, and then when you are in a positive place to help someone else, I think that's huge change, and I think that's also valuable. So that's what I try to do. If I'm not good, then I'm trying real damn hard to work on myself through therapy, through whatever it is. But when I am good, I'm trying my best to think of something small to, like, just one little win. I just need one little win today, and I usually get it. So that's kind of how I move forward. I start the master's program in the fall for public health. I don't know what in the hell I'm going to do after that, but I'm just trying little things to just, I want to make it better, and I don't know what that means or how that looks. But damned if I'm not going to fight until I figure it out.
I appreciate that you bring all of that to the table. I know you've said that you don't really feel like you bring a lot, and you actually said it before we started that when you listen, a lot of people bring things into the conversation and you wanted to bring something productive, but I think you're trying too hard because you already do bring a lot of productivity into every conversation. I've seen you advocating for the nurses in the department. I've seen you advocating for the EMTs and the paramedics. So don't ever put yourself down because you're doing great things. And I think if you continue down this path, you will bring something big one day.
That means a lot. That's my people are everything. So family or chosen family or friends, like, that's, it fills my heart to be around you guys. And that's what kind of keeps me like, okay, like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And based on my life story, as you've heard it, it doesn't ever go the way I planned it. So I'll figure it out, man. I'm not, it'll figure itself out.
Yes, and I don't want you to feel like it gets lost because it doesn't. We all see it. We all see it. We all see the work
Thank
that
you.
you're putting in. So,
Thank
one
you.
more thing. What's like the craziest thing you've ever seen in trauma?
Oh gosh, crazy. Seen a lot of things. I, you know, that is one of the, uh, it can cause you to kind of like be jarred, but there's some things that you see where you're kind of like, oh man, that's pretty cool. Kind of glad I was there to see that in person. Yeah, God, there's a million stories to pick from. I mean, we've had to clamshell where we cracked the chest open, and I've seen a person's heart being massaged manually. Um, I've seen, people's rib cages. I've seen femur bones sticking out. The other day, we had a person who had a catfish, like, barb, like the whole catfish head was like through his foot, like, even some crazy things. I think that honestly, the things that, it's funny because I remember all these things. I'm known for being a klutz, 100%. But one of the funniest things that I ever did, and it's what they still make jokes about it, like, it's been 0 days since Michelle, blah 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 blah. I mean, I've fallen down the hallway just walking, so balance is not necessarily my best attribute. I may or may not have a tendency to jump right away on a stretcher to straddle a patient to do compressions. And so this was a separate incident, that we had to come from CT over to the trauma bay, which is just across the hall, as you know. And we're going, and this is bad. This person had a surgical scar from sternum all the way down to the belly, and it had dehisced. But I'm trying to do compressions, and there's green goop coming out everywhere, and then it's coming out of their noses. And it happened so fast that I did not put gloves on. I just jumped in. I was like, they're dead. I gotta get on. I gotta go. So I'm swimming in it, right? So we get this patient who was in a hospital bed because they happened to be from the floor. They weren't even an emergency room patient. We moved them into bay two, and as you know, there's equipment and things everywhere, right? And I'm like I said, I'm locked in. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna get those pulses. I got them, not a problem. And then so someone comes in to take over compression so I can get off and everyone else can get in, right? Because I'm basically riding them like a horse. So we switch positions and the next person comes in and I lift my hands and then I go to, I guess, dismount would be the proper word. And I tumble myself all the way off the bed into the IV cart and on the floor. So not only did I not get off without, like, I literally threw myself into the IV cart. And one of the other nurses, who is Andrew, who was working the Zoll, he's trying to put pads and look for her. And he's like, I looked over and Pantoja was there. And I turned around to the Zoll and I looked again and she was gone. And it's because I was on the ground. So I am notorious for like injuring myself in one way or another. My dismount has improved. Thank you. That has not happened yet again. But it's, for me, it's a very serious job. But the other side of that coin is when you can laugh about something, you absolutely should. And I have no problem being the subject of that giggle. I often am. So I don't know about cool things, but I could give you a list of stupid shit that I've done where it caused a lot of laughs. But you know what? It broke the tension. It gave everyone just kind of moment of reprieve. And it's like, well, that's Pantoja over there. Like that's kind of what she does. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. She'll get herself off the ground. It's fine. Not even concerned.
That's so awesome. Well, Michelle, thank you again so much for joining us on the 911 Nonsense podcast. It's been an absolutely phenomenal conversation. I've enjoyed hanging out with you, and I look forward to seeing you at work in a few days.
Thank you so much, Sam. This has been really great. I really love what you're doing. I think this is huge for our community. I know it brings you joy, but you should know how, for me and for other people that I've talked to, what a positive effect this has had for people. And to be offered this platform and a place for us to gather, you're changing things, and that's huge. And so I really appreciate you for doing this and continuing it and finding so many interesting people. It's really great. And I love not just talking with you today, but I really do love, like I said, we've got a 14-year history. And so I really can't wait to see where you and I go from here.
It's only going to be up, my friend.
Exactly.
I appreciate you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. You too, Sam.
Thanks. Bye, Michelle. Thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show and want to show your support, be sure to check out the new merch store on Bonfire. Find the link in the description below. Also, if you have any guest suggestions or if you're interested in being a guest on Noon yourself, visit the website at www.samspursuit.com to get in touch.